interns here at the aquarium. Today I'm joined by 3 members of our animal care team, and here in just a moment we will be stepping up to do a training session with our 2 rough-toothed dolphins, Rex and Rudolph. Right off the bat, I'll go ahead and tell you guys a little bit more about these guys. I'm sure for those of you guys that have been able to see them from this side, you've noticed that they look a little bit different than Winter and all of her friends. These guys are a different species of dolphin known as rough-toothed dolphin, while Winter and all of her friends, those guys are coastal bottlenose dolphins. A few differences between the two. Bottlenose dolphins are typically found in coastal regions like here in Clearwater, whereas the rough-toothed dolphins, these guys are more pelagic, living miles and miles off the shore off that continental shelf. These guys are also quite a bit smaller than the bottlenose dolphin, typically maxing out right around 6 feet and weighing right around 300 pounds, whereas those bottlenose dolphins can get up to 12 feet in length and weigh up to 1,400 pounds. So quite a considerable difference between the two. Here in just a moment, you'll see our animal care specialist step up to do a training session with these guys, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it as we go. Here at the aquarium, we do utilize what is called positive reinforcement training. What that means is that we're going to reinforce behaviors that we want to see more of and simply ignore the ones that we don't. Throughout the session, you'll notice our care specialist using a variety of hand signals to communicate with Rex and Rudy. And when we ask them these things, they're simply just a request. Now, if they follow that request with what we're looking for, then you'll see our care specialist utilize what we call a bridge, which is going to be a point, or maybe some of that really excited body language to communicate to these guys that they did exactly what they asked for, and they can come back to us for some reinforcement. And when we start talking about reinforcement, there are 2 different kinds of reinforcement that we can utilize with these guys. The first kind is going to be what we call primary reinforcement, which is going to be anything that the dolphins find naturally reinforcing. Does anyone have a guess as to what a dolphin might find naturally reinforcing? Food, yeah. Food is a great example of a primary reinforcer. These guys out in the ocean, their primary diet would consist of squid as well as a variety of fish. Here at the aquarium, we feed all of our animals restaurant quality seafood, so they still get that squid as well as mullet, herring, and a little fish that we call capelin. We can also utilize what we call secondary reinforcement with these guys, or conditioned reinforcement, which is anything that we can pair with that primary to add value. So you guys may notice back here behind me in the North Pool, we do have a buoy, and that little orange block that you see floating around in there. That is what we call EEDs, or environmental enrichment devices. And these are a great example of some of that secondary reinforcement that we can utilize with these guys. You may also notice our care specialist utilizing tactile reinforcement with these guys as well. Rough-toothed dolphins, these guys are a very social species, and they're actually one of the few species of dolphins that have been documented grooming each other, which is pretty neat. These guys have shown us that they seem to find that tactile to be very reinforcing, so you may notice our care specialist utilizing that during their session. We do train for 3 primary reasons, and that first reason is going to be for physical exercise. Dolphins out in the ocean, these guys would be swimming miles and miles a day, interacting with other dolphins and in search of food. Obviously here at the aquarium, our habitat's not quite as big as the ocean is, right? So instead we're going to try to encourage these guys to get up and get active in other ways. Just a moment ago you noticed Cammie offering Rex those 2 hands and wanting him to come up and meet his pectoral fins with her hands. That right there is a good example of some of that physical exercise behavior, because what we're doing is we're looking for him to utilize his peduncle, that area in between his dorsal fin and his tail flukes, to propel himself up and out of the water there. There he goes, up there for that target. So just like that. Those physical exercise behaviors are going to include those behaviors like that target that you just saw, but also some more high energy behaviors like speed swims, or even some of those jumps that you guys may see throughout the session, and I'll try to point them out to you guys as they happen. Now, another reason that we train our animals is going to be for cognitive stimulation. Dolphins out in the ocean, these guys are going to be constantly communicating with each other, problem solving, and adapting to new environments. Now, here at the aquarium, we're obviously a little bit more of a controlled environment, so we want to give these guys different ways to utilize those communication and problem solving abilities. A great example of that is mimicry. So you see Rex practicing that over here with that spy hop behavior, and Cammie moved her arms up, and Rex followed them up and then back down. And mimicry is a great example of that. You guys are seeing Rudy with that physical exercise behavior behind me as well. Now, if throughout the session you guys see anything that you think is really cool or warrants an applause, you're more than welcome to get up, get excited, clap for these guys. They love it, we love it. So you're more than welcome to do that. Back on to the cognitive stimulation that we can utilize with these guys. So mimicry is a great example, but also training sessions. So while we go to school to learn new things, these guys are going to come to training sessions to learn new things. Both Rex and Rudolph, these guys are rescued animals, and they've actually only been here in our facility for about a year now. So all the behaviors that you guys are seeing with these guys, these are still new behaviors that these guys are working on. Enrichment is another great way that we can provide some of that cognitive stimulation. It does allow for us to go ahead and change up their environment and provide them different things to interact with and engage with that and each other. You guys are seeing right now Rex do what is called a retrieval. So what Cammie did is she threw that buoy out. She gave him that hand signal. We're just looking for him to go ahead and bring it right back to her. Look at that. He's awesome. Yeah, you guys can clap for that. See if we can get him to do that again, huh? So any of you guys clean your room at home? Yeah, 2 of you. So just like you guys clean your room at home, our dolphins clean their habitat. Pretty fun, right? The third and final reason that we train our animals, and arguably the most important reason that we train our animals, is for what we call husbandry, which is another word for healthcare management. These guys are going to be here in our care for the remainder of their lives. These guys are permanent residents, non-releasable animals. So we want to make sure that we can take care of them and monitor their health. These guys are all trained to voluntarily participate in their own health care. It can be really simple behaviors like these dorsal and ventral layouts like you guys are seeing Rex practice over here. A good way for us to get a good look over on him. But it can also be more complex behaviors like urine and fecal samples, blood samples, chest samples, and even hydration type behaviors. So I'm sure you guys are familiar that dolphins are mammals, right? Mammals require fresh water. Dolphins don't actually drink the salt water that they live in. Out in the ocean, these guys would get most of their hydration from the food that they eat, and they do still get that from their food here at the aquarium. But since we have the ability to go above and beyond, we do try to do that. So you guys may see throughout the day, whether you're watching this session or maybe a session with our bottlenose dolphins, we might have them do a voluntary hydration tube swallow. Well, we'll take a big long tube and we'll ask the animal to swallow that, and we'll feed it all the way down into the first chamber of their stomach. Once it hits the first chamber of their stomach there, we can go ahead and pour fresh water directly into it. Behind me right now, you guys are seeing another great example of some of that cognitive stimulation and physical exercise with Rudolph over there. What we're working on with him is increasing that frisbee spin behavior, one of the more common behaviors that we've seen from Rudolph there. Now, as we're training these new behaviors, we're going to go step by step and do what we call approximations. So we're going to start off with something really simple, really achievable for the animal. Once they achieve that first step, we will slowly build onto that behavior step by step until we see success with them. All of the training that we do here is completely voluntary, and it's based off of that positive relationship between our animals and our animal care specialists. So even outside of training sessions, you may notice our care specialists simply just hanging out with our animals, playing with them, or just hanging out by the pool and doing what we call FaceTime. FaceTime is a great opportunity for us to offer ourselves to the animal in case they decide to engage with us. Even if they don't, FaceTime does provide us a great opportunity to watch them, see how they're interacting with their environment, see which EEDs they're interacting with, seeing how they're interacting with each other, and see what they can find most reinforcing. We can then turn around and utilize that information during our training sessions to make their training sessions more reinforcing for them. Now, earlier you guys heard me mention that Rex and Rudolph are both rescued individuals. They've actually only been here for about a year now. I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit more about their backstory, starting with Rex over here with my friend Cammie. Rex is actually the oldest of our two, and his story begins back in April of 2019 when he beached himself off of St. George Island. When Rex was rescued, he had severe malnourishment, so he was brought into a facility known as Gulf World for rehabilitation. And when animals enter that rehabilitation process, they'll go through a series of health screenings to see if they make a good candidate for release. One of those tests that we'll do on the animals is a hearing test, where we'll put 2 suction cups there on their jaw and 1 up on their melon, and we'll run a series of frequencies and vibrations through those cups and track how the animal responds through a computer program. When we did that with Rex, we found that he has significant hearing loss, especially in the range of echolocation. Rudolph, the youngest of our two, over here behind me, he's estimated to be about 3 years old, and his story is very similar. His story begins in December of 2019 when he beached himself off of Sanibel Island. Now, when he was found, he was also extremely malnourished and had a severe respiratory infection, so we brought him into our rehabilitation program here. We also administered that hearing test on Rudolph and found that he also has that significant hearing loss in the range of echolocation. So for that reason, both of these guys have been deemed non-releasable animals. Out in the wild, without that hearing, these guys would have difficulty hunting, difficulty navigating, and even difficulty communicating with other animals, and for that reason, they would not be able to survive on their own in the ocean. We don't know exactly what caused it for these guys specifically, but common causations for dolphins losing their hearing is oceanic drilling, sonar testing, or even being too close to a large boat engine. As technology is advancing, humans are going out into the oceans more and more, and our oceans are getting louder and louder. And that can have a drastic impact on animals like these guys that rely so heavily on that hearing to survive. Unfortunately, sound pollution is not the only kind of pollution that these guys are threatened by. Unfortunately, it is estimated that there is over 5 trillion pounds of plastic, trash, and microplastics out in our oceans. This can be dangerous not only for dolphins, but for all marine life. As they can ingest it, they can become entangled in it, and it even destroys their habitat itself. So we do want to encourage you guys to try to reduce, reuse, and recycle all of your single-use plastic products. And we want to challenge you guys that as you're out and walking around, whether it's on the beach or around your neighborhood, if you see pieces of trash, go ahead and try to pick that up, even 2 to 3 pieces. Whether or not you live by the sea, all waterways do eventually lead to the ocean, so any little bit that you do can absolutely help. We do want to thank you guys for joining us here at the aquarium today. In case you're unaware, Clearwater Marine Aquarium is an active marine hospital, and we are a non-profit organization. So you guys coming in and checking us out does help us support our mission of rescue, rehabilitation, and release. So when we say that we appreciate your visit, we do really mean that. If you guys have any questions with anything out after this training session, you're more than welcome to come up and ask me. Once again, my name is Kat, or any of our other amazing staff, volunteers, or interns. But on behalf of me, our training team, and our animals, thank you guys for joining us, and we hope that you have a fantastic day here at Clearwater Marine Aquarium.
And then when they drop the pill,